Early this morning, the Jerusalem Post reported that Palestinian Authority leader Mahmoud Abbas had been hospitalized for the second time in a week. But then, following that announcement, an official from the Palestinian Authority said that he had just talked to Mr. Abbas and that he was in his office, but he also said that the upcoming visit to Russia was still on schedule. So Mr. Abbas's office is denying that he is in the hospital and that there could be anything seriously wrong. But I have to believe that the Jerusalem Post probably is on top of this, and we will be hearing more about it in the coming days. But the reason why this is so important is because that would bring about a new leader with which the United States could possibly work with, who's more moderate and could possibly do what's best for the Palestinian people. And as reported in the past, that Australia, the United States, and now Israel are putting the clamps on the Palestinian Authority and withholding funds if, in fact, it's proven that they are financing terrorism by paying families of terrorists who have either died or are in jail a lifetime sum of certain amounts. And it's been predicted that, or it's believed that it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 million. And that's on a yearly basis. So these three nations, who do control quite a bit of the PA's money, are now trying to financially reprimand the Palestinian Authority and their leaders. Now here's a story coming out of the Times of Israel that can be directly attached to Bible prophecy. And it says that Russia, this is what they're saying about Iran, complete Iranian withdrawal from Syria is absolutely unrealistic. And Russia has backed up what they are saying by resuming their bombing mission of Syrian rebels who are trapped between Israel's northern border and Damascus. So this is what the article has to say. It says Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov said Wednesday that it would be absolutely unrealistic to expect Iran to completely withdraw from Syria. Speaking after a meeting with his Jordanian counterpart in Moscow, Lavrov said a proposed ceasefire deal in the southern region brokered by Russia, Jordan, and the U.S. envisioned the withdrawal of non-Syrian forces and the deployment of Syrian forces along the border of Israel. But Lavrov said Iran is one of the key powers in the region and that it would be absolutely unrealistic to expect it to abandon its interest in the country. He said regional powers should discuss mutual complaints and negotiate a compromise. Israel has repeatedly said it will not tolerate an Iranian military presence in Syria and has recently acknowledged carrying out airstrikes on Iranian targets in the country. Israel has also struck Syrian air defense systems that fired at Israeli fighter jets during the raids. Jerusalem has accused Tehran of seeking to gain a foothold in the border area as forces loyal to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad have made gains in clearing out rebel groups there. The U.S. and Israel view Iran's extensive military presence in Syria as a threat to Israel and have threatened action. Well, we'll see if that's actually what the United States continues to see Iran's presence in the Syrian region. A lot will be known after the meeting with Mr. Putin, which I believe is scheduled for July 16th. You know, it's no secret that U.S. President Donald Trump wants to get his military out of Syria, which is somewhere around 2,000 men. And I think that that's probably what's going to take place in light of a more and grander regional deal. As I've said in the past, that I believe that at some point in time that Russia is going to likely agree to take responsibility for the Syrian region and make sure that Iran does not attempt to create a foothold in southern Syria on Israel's northern border. And I think that will be in conjunction with an agreement that will ultimately be made between Israel, the United States, and the moderate Arab world. So what you're going to be looking at, I believe, is going to be Russia and their allies on one side, and Israel, the United States, and the moderate Arab world on the other side. But they'll come together in the name of peace. Now, certainly that is speculation on my part, but one thing that's not speculation is that Iran is not leaving the Syrian southern region, which is next to Israel's northern border, because the Bible is clear that at some point in time, the nations that are in Israel or in Syria right now, which are Turkey, who they're not down there yet, Russia, who is in that area, and Iran. And you might as well throw Hezbollah in there as well in Syria, because they will also join in on this attack when it finally takes place. And the Bible says that there's a main reason why that this attack takes place. It's when what I believe will be Russia's leader. God will place a hook in the Russian leader's mouth, a spoil, have you, that will be they will be unable to turn away from. Now, do I think at this point in time that Russia has any indication of attacking Israel? No, I don't. But the Bible says that at some point in time, this hook will be placed in this Russian leader's mouth, and he will be unable to turn away from attacking Israel. Now, one thing you should remember is this right here, is that the Bible is clear that God will put a hook in his mouth. So I doubt the hook is in his mouth as at this time. But it will be the will of God that this attack take place, or at least the assembly of these nations on Israel's northern border will at least take place. It's highly likely that God will destroy them before they even enter into Israel. So I advise you to keep an eye on what comes of this summit on July 16th between President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Vladimir Putin, and see what kind of understanding they come to. And if you don't know the Lord, today is the day of salvation. 150,000 people are going to die today. The Bible says that the vast majority will end up in a burning hell. Don't let that happen to you. Come to the Lord, allow him to save you, and from this day forward, live for him. And you Christians, you need a copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide. There are two different versions. The first version is the free version, which is written in 9 different languages, but you do have to download it, and you can place it upon any electronic device such as a phone or a tablet or a computer. But I would get a copy of this and give it to one of your friends. And also there is the paperback version. A gentleman came to me years ago and said, listen, I'd like to have a copy of this in paperback form to give to my daughter. He was worried that his daughter would be left without information on the tribulation period once the rapture took place. So he wanted to make sure that his daughter had this book on hand once the rapture did take place. Well, I would recommend that you do the same thing. Get a copy of this book, give it to your lost friend or loved one, so they'll have this information as to what will take place once and after the rapture takes place and the tribulation period begins. It will also give them warning signs, survival tips, and guide them in determining where they need to go once this starts to break loose. So again, I'd recommend that you get either one of these copies, go down to the description section, and click on the link, and it'll take you to where you can purchase this or download this book. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.